And so even when I offer the clients that came to me were predominantly African American, it's like, let's look for our foods that fit what Ayurveda is trying to talk about. Did you have that experience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like the food, the climate is very, so I was born in South America. I was born in Ecuador. I came to the States when I was a year old. And so I was raised here really, but I was raised in almost like the opposite climate of what my ancestry is from.
Mm, okay.
And so I think there was for sure serious reacclimation that like my DNA, my cells, my body just had to do. And so figuring out, I mean, my mom was always great and still is great of like staying true to like the dishes that we grew up with and all of that. And just like the comfort that that brings, I think does
Mhm.
thing just energetic. But yeah, the entire, I'm like, I just kept making connections going back of like, that's why we did that. That's where this comes from. And I could see the blend and the merge of different traditions too. But I mean, there's something about, and one of the courses from that healing and leadership series I did, I present this research that was like from like racial healing frameworks where one of the core things they found that is really healing, especially to people of color, is regrounding in ancestral and cultural traditions.
Yes.
And I hear you saying that of just like the regrounding or the reclamation or just the like, I've done this, I've eaten this, or this has been just customary for me. But now I'm the awareness that we have of like, and this means something bigger than just the bite of food I'm about to put in my mouth. And I think
Yeah.
those are healing practices that, man, we've just been socialized to overlook, or to your point of just like, I want the new stuff, like, oh, that's old wives' tale. Oh, that's just
Yeah.
traditional,
Yeah.
old school things.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's us.
It's funny whenever I'm having these conversations, like you never know where it's going to go, right? But you are totally taking me back to um, being born in this country when you talk about socialized. Under my what I was taught being African American meant, as opposed to the connection to Africa, like that really wasn't discussed. Fortunately, when I went to college, I met someone from Nigeria, from West Africa, very connected to her family. I went home with her for a month, and I'm like, this is where my stuff come, like I don't know that I come from Nigeria specifically, but it's probably somewhere in West Africa. But like the food, or that I didn't speak the language, but I was sitting, amongst her family and I got what was going on. I knew who was in trouble and what, and it's just kind of like, oh, we as African Americans didn't lose as much as we thought we did. And a lot of the food that was brought over was just changed based upon the ingredients that were here. But
Mhm.
that um, nutrition, that medicine, that you need this to be healthy came through. It just was available with different types of food. But
Mhm.
I love, and then have met other West Africans since I've been here in DC, but I love the connection
Yeah.
because I didn't think I had any to the part of my lineage that was African at some point because I was led to believe that once we came here, we lost all of it. But it's not true.
Mm, yeah. Oh man. Ah, that's stirring up so many thoughts of just, yeah, that was done intentionally, right? Like
Mm,
it was like imposed upon people of you are nothing, you have nothing, you belong no longer to your family or to, right?
yeah,
Like I'm getting
yeah,
through, yeah. Like that was part of the programming that
yeah.
needed to happen for like the oppression at such a wide systematic level to occur. And I think our cells have deep cellular memory. And
I agree.
so it could just take a memory. It could just take like some kind of exposure, like when you're with your friends, of like, wait,
Yeah.
this feels familiar, or like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. This is not like a foreign concept to me. Like, there's just something here that I think, Man, yeah, those are the types of experiences we should always be having of and for and
Mhm.
with each other to like
Yeah.
help ourselves, like our literal selves, just remember.
Yeah. 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 Oh. So tell me a little bit more about how you're planning to use Ayurveda. Who is it that you want to work with? And what kind of impact do you want it to have with what you're already doing, or are you going off in a different direction?
Yeah, I think a little bit of all the above. Um, as someone who burned myself out severely, I would say relatively early on in my career, I started off as a classroom teacher,
Mm,
and I, man, that first year teaching, I'm like going back into that space. That first year teaching, I was doing everything under the sun I could possibly think of for my students. I mean, I remember sleeping like 3, 4, 5 hours most of the time. I was one of the first teachers to arrive at school. I was one of the
mm,
last teachers to leave. I was doing after school tutorials. I was doing Saturday tutorials. I specifically wanted to serve a community that was under resourced and
mm.
marginalized. And so the needs were very wide and deep and great. Um, and I didn't have a good sense of what balance meant
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
So it was a little too much too soon. Um, and so yeah, I definitely burned myself out. And so as someone who knows and can rationalize it's for the children, it's okay if I'm not sleeping, it's okay if I'm not eating, it's okay, like I can rationalize that because it was for the greater good. um Man, that is like my target audience. So that's why I work with a lot of educators, people in the nonprofit world, because people in the nonprofit world, like, we don't go into the nonprofit sector because we're like, we're going to make millions off of this. It's because we're so motivated by whatever mission that particular organization holds. It feels like we're serving a larger purpose, something greater than ourselves. And so I know burnout is a massive consequence of that, and that leads to a lot of nervous system and digestive issues. So
Oh, see, you brought that back. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now. I was wondering why those two things, but that makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah, when you're tapped out and resource, I mean the enteric nervous system that involves the digestion in the body, it is like so connected. So that's why if you are starting to have digestive issues, and of course this is not medical advice, but it's typically not too far gone that nervous system issues or just like nervous system dysregulation, like having like that fluttering effect or straight up anxiety, can be common occurrences, or vice versa, where if my anxiety is really off the charts, that then my digestion is probably not going to be as solid. And so yeah, I'm basically working with educators. It's like the same population: educators, nonprofit leaders, anyone who is in certain like industries and sectors that are like giving their all for other
Mhm,
people for greater
mhm.
causes and are just probably burning themselves out on both ends of that candle. That's the target for the Ayurveda specifically. And then for the medical astrology has been so cool because in medical astrology, I can tell people, hey, it looks like you might have a propensity for these types of things. This is something to talk to your doctor about, get the appropriate testing. I'm not a medical professional. I can't give medical advice, but I'm not legally allowed to say, take this or do this. But from an Ayurvedic health counseling perspective, I can give
Mhm.
some suggestions for diet and lifestyle. So, for example, if I see someone has a big propensity for nervous system regulation, in Ayurveda, we would call that your vata is aggravated, because vata is
Mhm.
like the mind body energy, for just simplicity's sake, just for this conversation, that governs air and space and movement in the body, including movement of thoughts. And so I can say, here are some things that could help that. Still talk to your
Mhm.
doctor, but here's some basic things that you can try. And if it's basic things like going to sleep at a consistent time, or creating and sticking to a routine, so that way your nervous system experiences more stability and therefore it eventually like senses that as safety,
Yeah.
then yes, now this medical astrology reading is that much more powerful because I'm not just like, here's what you have a propensity for, go talk to your doctor, but here's what you have a propensity for, go talk to your doctor. And here's some things that are really low lift that you can try as soon as we get off the call today.
Oh, I like that. And so when you're bringing up Ayurveda, what do you say? How do you explain what it is or why someone might want to explore it a little bit more? Like, what is your intro or description or synopsis of Ayurveda?
Yeah, I usually say it's like a holistic system of health that helps people align to nature's rhythms. And most often, more often than not, whenever we feel some kind of ailment or illness or something, it's because our body is off of some kind of rhythm that it's not supposed to be off of.
Mm,
And maybe it's just like a regional thing in New York City. I think a lot of people are actually familiar with traditional Chinese medicine.
yes.
And so I try and draw parallels, honoring both systems, and they're distinct, they're distinct and in their own ways, but there is a lot of overlap. And so I usually draw a parallel to that for people like with acupuncture. And people are like, oh, I know what acupuncture. Oh, I know it's like energy rebalancing. So it's like, yes, the same thing exists in Ayurveda with Marma points, for example. And at the level that we studied, we don't necessarily work with Marma points, but it's like the same understanding, right? Of we're leveling off and rebalancing and recalibrating how our bodies are functioning via the rhythms of the day, of the seasons of our life.
For some reason, and I don't know a lot about medical astrology, but the way that you've blended that with Ayurveda, the way that you spoke about it just now makes sense to me. But how you then take it to leadership, I'm just curious about how when you're doing some kind of training that is a leadership training, and I know that you said that you bring in self-care, but then how do you get down to like Ayurvedic practices, or do you take it that far?
Yeah, even if I don't call it specifically Ayurvedic practices, some people are like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. From a self-care perspective, people might be interested in that. Other people might just say, like, yeah, I don't really know what that is, and that seems too like clinical, so maybe not. Um, but regardless, before, whenever I would do any kind of training or facilitation, I usually open up the space with some kind of somatic moment.
Hmm.
And so this was from years ago. I mean, I've been teaching, training, facilitating for now, like 22 years. So that wasn't really a shift for me. What's a shift for me now is before I would say it as the reason why we're doing this particular breathing exercise is to call all of our energy to the present moment. It's signaling to our brains and our nervous systems and our bodies that we're about to do something different than what has been happening in your day. We're trying to invite our presence into here, and it's going to calm our nervous system to know that this is what we're about to engage in. And then I would just like get started. Now I can add additional framing of, and this is a helpful practice for you to do basically at any time, that after a big meeting or a tense phone call or some disagreement with a loved one or something, you can do some of these exercises. It will keep, right? And then I can weave in and here's another thing you can do for like stress and anxiety, or here's another thing you can do to evoke safety and stability. And so I may not call it Ayurveda per se in those spaces, but essentially that's what it is. But it was like I was kind of doing it before,
Hmm.
but now I have such a powerful framework to add even more context and rationale and more suggestions and practices.